My name is Emily Harper, 30 years old, and I just walked out of prison after 5 years for a crime I didn't commit. I was ready to rebuild my life, to come home to Savannah, Georgia, and make things right with my family. I counted every single day behind bars, dreaming of my mom's warm hug at her welcome back party. Then 2 days ago, my phone buzzed with a text from my little sister, Hannah. "Don't come to Mom's funeral. You're not welcome." My heart stopped. Funeral? Mom was fine when I last heard from her. I called Hannah, my hands shaking, but she didn't pick up. I called my dad, my grandma Charlotte, nothing. Just silence. An hour later, I checked my bank account to buy a bus ticket home anyway. $10,000. Every penny I'd saved from selling my paintings in prison was gone. Wiped clean. The bank said the transfer went to an account linked to Hannah Harper, my sister, the one who just banned me from our mother's funeral. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like the ground had been ripped out from under me. 5 years of hell and now this? Betrayed by my own blood? I typed a dozen angry replies, deleted them all, and just sent one word: fine. That word carried every ounce of pain and rage I'd bottled up. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button, you're not gonna believe how this unfolds. Was Hannah just grieving, or was something darker going on? Why was Mom gone so suddenly? And how deep did this betrayal go? I was about to find out, and trust me, the truth was uglier than I ever could have imagined. That single word, fine, was still burning in my chest as I sat in a cheap motel room, trying to piece together how my life had unraveled in just one day. Hannah's text banning me from Mom's funeral and the $10,000 theft were punches I hadn't seen coming. But to understand why they hurt so much, you need to know where I came from. Growing up in Savannah, Georgia, in the Harper family was like living in a postcard. Our mansion on Abercorn Street, with its oak-lined driveway and wraparound porch, screamed old Southern money. From the outside, we were perfect. Dad, William, ran the biggest bank in town. Mom, Margaret, threw charity galas that made the papers. And my little sister, Hannah, was the golden child, charming her way into law school by 22. Then there was me, the dreamer who'd rather sketch the Spanish moss than balance a checkbook. Dad had big plans for me to join Harper Bank, to wear pencil skirts and crunch numbers like him. But I wanted to paint, to capture Savannah's soul on canvas. "You're throwing your life away," he'd yell, his face turning red whenever I brought home art awards instead of business internships. Hannah, 3 years younger, soaked up his approval, always the perfect daughter. Mom tried to play peacemaker, but her soft voice got drowned out by Dad's expectations. The real blow came at 25 when I got tangled up with a shady art dealer Dad had vouched for. He promised to fund my first gallery show, but instead, he used my name to launder money through fake art sales. $5 million in fraud, and I took the fall. I swore I was innocent, but the evidence, forged signatures, doctored emails, pointed to me. My own family didn't believe me. Dad said I'd shamed the Harper name. Hannah called me a liar. Only Grandma Charlotte, with her sharp wit and handwritten letters, stood by me. "You're stronger than their doubts," she wrote while I sat in a cell. Those 5 years in prison broke me and rebuilt me. I learned to keep my head down, to trust my gut, and to paint through the pain. I sold a few pieces through a prison art program, saving every dime for a fresh start. When Mom's letter arrived 6 months ago, promising a welcome home party, I let myself hope. Maybe the Harpers had softened. Maybe I could come back to those warm Savannah nights, to Mom's pecan pie and Dad's reluctant smile. I even planned gifts. A painting of Forsyth Park for Mom, a leather-bound law book for Hannah, a vintage pocket watch for Dad, and a silk shawl for Grandma Charlotte. But Hannah's text shattered that dream. Why was Mom gone? Why would Hannah steal from me? And why did the whole family go silent? Something was wrong in Savannah, and I wasn't going to let fine be my last word. I needed answers, and I was ready to fight for them. Sitting in that dingy Savannah motel room, the sting of Hannah's betrayal and Mom's sudden death still raw, I couldn't help but trace my scars back to those 5 years in prison. The Harper mansion, with its polished floors and family expectations, felt like a lifetime ago. Back then, I thought I'd lost everything when the judge sentenced me for fraud I didn't commit. But behind those cold steel bars, I found something stronger than the Harper name, myself. Prison wasn't like the movies. It was endless gray days, the clang of gates, and eyes always watching. At first, I was terrified. A 25-year-old artist thrown into a world of hardened women. But fear either breaks you or builds you, and I chose to build. Early on, I met Sarah, a 40-year-old former accountant serving 7 years for embezzlement. She saw me struggling to navigate the unspoken rules. Don't sit at the wrong table, don't owe anyone favors, and took me under her wing. Keep your head up, Harper, she'd say, her voice gravelly from years of chain smoking. Sarah taught me more than survival. She showed me how to read financial records, spot red flags in transactions, skills I'd later use to unravel Hannah's schemes. We'd spend nights in our cell, her explaining balance sheets while I sketched her portrait. She became the sister Hannah never was, the family I'd lost. Painting saved my soul. The prison had a small art program, and I poured every ounce of pain into my canvases: Savannah's live oaks, Mom's smile, even the anger I felt toward Dad. 3 of my pieces sold at a charity auction for $500 each, my first taste of pride since the trial. I saved every penny, dreaming of a fresh start. But family ties were harder to mend. Dad sent one letter, formal and cold, saying I'd disgraced us. Hannah never wrote. Mom's calls were brief, her voice trembling, always dodging talk of Dad or the trial. Only Grandma Charlotte kept me grounded, her letters arriving like clockwork on cream stationery. Your heart's too big for their small minds, she wrote after my 2nd year. You're a Harper, but you're also you. Those 5 years forged me. I learned to stand tall when guards barked orders, to stay calm when fights broke out in the yard, to trust my instincts. By year 4, I was helping other inmates with their appeals, using Sarah's lessons to spot errors in their cases. When I walked out of that prison 3 weeks ago, I wasn't the scared girl who'd gone in. I was ready to fight for my name, to prove I was no criminal. Mom's letter about the welcome home party had lit a spark of hope. Maybe I could rebuild with the Harpers. But Hannah's text, the stolen $10,000, and Mom's death snuffed that out. Why was my family hiding? What had Hannah done? I wasn't just fighting for answers now. I was fighting for the life I'd earned. Savannah was calling, and I was done running. The Savannah Motel's flickering neon sign buzzed outside my window as I clutched the phone. Hannah's text, "Don't come to Mom's funeral. You're not welcome," still searing my mind. Those 5 years in prison had taught me to keep fighting, to trust the strength I'd built with Sarah's help and Grandma Charlotte's letters. But the news of Mom's death and the theft of my $10,000 savings felt like a betrayal sharper than any cell block shiv. I wasn't just fighting for answers anymore. I was fighting to reclaim the life I'd scraped together behind bars. Savannah, with its jasmine-scented streets and buried secrets, was calling me home. Despite Hannah's warning, I knew I had to go back. Not just for Mom, but for the truth. 6 months before I walked out of prison, a letter from Mom had slipped through the bars of my cell, her elegant handwriting promising a welcome home party at the Harper mansion. "We've missed you, Emily," she wrote. "It's time to start over." Those words were a lifeline. A flicker of hope that maybe the Harpers could heal after 5 years of silence. In prison, I'd spent countless nights imagining that party. Mom's pecan pie, Dad's grudging nod from across the room, even Hannah's polished smile softening into something real. I let myself believe the wounds from my trial. Dad's accusations, Hannah's cold dismissal, might have faded. Mom's letter felt like proof. So I started planning not just for the party but for a fresh start in Savannah. I'd saved every dime from selling my paintings, $10,000 tucked away for a new beginning. I spent weeks picking out gifts, each one a bridge to reconnect with my family. For Mom, I painted a canvas of Forsyth Park, its fountain sparkling under a golden sky, capturing the Savannah she loved. For Hannah, now a hotshot lawyer, I found a leather-bound book of Supreme Court cases, hoping it might spark a real conversation. Dad, always obsessed with time, would get a vintage pocket watch, its ticking a reminder of second chances. And for Grandma Charlotte, my rock through those dark years, I chose a silk shawl soft and warm like her words. Each gift was a piece of me, a plea for the Harpers to see the woman I'd become, not the criminal they'd branded me. To clear my name, I reached out to Michael, the lawyer who'd fought for me during my trial. He was semi-retired now, running a small firm in Savannah's historic district, but he answered my call from prison with the same steady voice. "Emily, we always knew you were innocent," he said. "The evidence was too clean, too convenient. If you're coming home, I'll dig into that art dealer's files again." His words reignited a fire I'd buried. That dealer, a slick operator named Victor Grayson, had been Dad's business partner. He'd framed me for laundering $5 million, and I'd always suspected Dad knew more than he let on. Michael agreed to pull old records, bank statements, Anything that might expose Grayson's lies. It was a long shot, but it gave me purpose. I also contacted my family, testing the waters. Mom's reply came first, typed in her careful way. "Of course we want you home, sweetheart. It's been too long." Her words wrapped around me like a hug, even through the screen. Grandma Charlotte's letter was next, her spidery script full of fire. "Come back and show them who you are, my girl." Even Hannah responded, though her text was curt. "Fine, come home. Just don't expect a parade." Dad's silence was louder than words, but I told myself he'd come around once I was there, standing in the mansion's grand foyer. Travis, my cousin who'd always been close to Hannah, sent a vague, "Good to hear you're out" message, which I took as a win. For the first time in years, I let myself hope. Maybe Savannah could be home again. Maybe the Harpers could be a family. In those final weeks behind bars, I prepared like I was going to war. I memorized Sarah's lessons on spotting financial fraud, knowing they might help me unravel Grayson's scheme. I practiced what I'd say to Dad, how I'd ask him about Victor without sparking a fight. I even sketched a new painting, one of the Savannah River at dawn, to hang in the mansion as a symbol of my return. When the prison gates finally opened 3 weeks ago, I stepped into the Georgia sun with $10,000, a duffel bag of dreams, and a bus ticket to Savannah. I was ready to face the Harpers, to rebuild what 5 years had broken. Mom's party was my chance to start over, to prove I wasn't the failure they thought. But Hannah's text changed everything. Mom was gone. Dead from a heart attack, the news said, though no one had warned me. The funeral was tomorrow, and Hannah didn't want me there. Worse, she'd stolen my savings, the money I'd earned through sweat and heartbreak. Dad and Travis weren't answering my calls. Even Grandma Charlotte's phone went to voicemail, which wasn't like her. The hope I'd clung to was crumbling, replaced by a gnawing dread. Why would Hannah do this? What was she hiding? And how could Mom be gone so suddenly? I stared at the gifts I'd packed, the painting for Mom now a painful reminder of what I'd lost. But prison had taught me one thing. You don't survive by giving up. I wasn't going to let Hannah's betrayal stop me. I'd go to Savannah, not for a welcome party, but for the truth. Whatever the Harpers were hiding, I was ready to face it. The hope I'd carried from prison, fueled by Mom's letter and those carefully chosen gifts, was all I had left as I boarded a Greyhound bus to Savannah. The $10,000 nest egg, the painting of Forsyth Park for Mom, the pocket watch for Dad. All were pieces of a dream to rebuild with the Harpers. Michael's promise to dig into Victor Grayson's files and Mom's words about a welcome home party had me believing I could mend what 5 years had broken. But as the bus rolled through Georgia's low country, my phone buzzed, shattering that fragile hope like glass. It was a text from Hannah, my little sister, the golden child turned stranger. "Don't come to Mom's funeral. You're not welcome." The words hit like a fist to the chest. Funeral? Mom was supposed to be waiting with pecan pie, not lying in a coffin. My fingers froze over the screen, the bus's hum fading as panic clawed at me. I called Hannah, my heart pounding, but it went straight to voicemail. Dad's number rang out. Travis, my cousin, didn't pick up. Even Grandma Charlotte, my lifeline through prison, wasn't answering. What was going on? I scrolled through news sites on my phone, my hands shaking, and found a brief obituary. Margaret Harper, 55, died of a sudden heart attack 3 days ago. No warning, no explanation. The funeral was tomorrow at First Baptist Church, the same place Mom had organized charity drives. How could she be gone? And why was Hannah, of all people, barring me from saying goodbye? I typed out a dozen replies, angry, pleading, confused, but deleted them all. In the end, I sent one word, fine. That word wasn't surrender, it was 5 years of hurt, betrayal, and defiance boiled down to 4 letters. An hour later, still reeling, I logged into my bank account to buy a bus ticket to Savannah anyway. I'd go, funeral or not, to find answers. But my account was empty. $10,000. Every penny I'd scraped together selling paintings in prison gone. The bank's transaction log showed a transfer to an account under Hannah Harper's name, executed yesterday. My sister hadn't just banned me from Mom's funeral. She'd stolen my future. I sat back, the bus seat creaking, feeling like I'd been gutted. 5 years of proving I wasn't a criminal, and now this? I called the bank, my voice shaking, but they needed in-person verification to freeze the account. I was 300 miles from Savannah, with $20 in my pocket and a duffel bag of useless gifts. Prison had taught me to think like Sarah, to spot the cracks in a scam. This wasn't random. Hannah, the lawyer who always had Dad's approval, didn't need my money. She drove a Lexus, lived in a condo by the river. Why take my $10,000? And why block me from the funeral? The timing, Mom's death, the theft, the silence from everyone felt like a coordinated hit. I thought of Sarah's gravelly voice. Follow the money, Harper. It always leads to the truth. I needed to get to Savannah, not to beg for a seat at the funeral, but to confront whatever Hannah was hiding. My old cellmate's words echoed as I dialed her from the bus station in Augusta, where I'd stopped to figure out my next move. Sarah, out on parole and living in Atlanta, answered on the first ring. Harper, you sound like hell. What's wrong? I spilled everything, Mom's death, Hannah's text, the stolen money. Sarah didn't hesitate. Your sister's playing dirty. Get to Savannah, find her paper trail, bank records, emails, anything. And don't let her see you coming. She offered to wire me $200 for a rental car, but I refused. I'd learned in prison not to owe anyone. Instead, she gave me a contact, her cousin, a paralegal in Savannah who could pull public records. You're not alone, Harper, Sarah said. You've got this. With my last $20, I bought a cheap burner phone and a sandwich, then hitched a ride to Savannah with a trucker headed south. By dusk, I was in the city, its live oaks and cobblestone streets both familiar and foreign. I couldn't afford a hotel, so I found a one-bedroom apartment for rent near Chippewa Square. A month-to-month deal for $300. The landlord, a gruff guy named Roy, took pity when I showed him my prison release papers and let me pay half up front. The place was bare, squeaky floors, a lumpy mattress, but it was mine, a base to start digging. That night, I ran into Lily, my high school best friend, at a corner store while grabbing coffee. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Emily? You're back. We hugged, her familiar perfume grounding me. Over quick catch-up, she dropped a bomb. I saw your mom at the market 2 weeks ago. She was so excited about your release. Said she was planning a big party. My throat tightened. If Mom was fine then, how did she die so suddenly? Lily hesitated, then added, Hannah's been running everything since. She's got your dad on a leash, and the bank's been acting weird, layoffs, closed accounts. Her words confirmed my gut. Hannah was at the center of this. I went back to the apartment, the weight of Mom's death and Hannah's betrayal sinking in. The gifts I packed, the painting, the watch, the shawl, sat in my duffel, mocking my broken dreams. But prison had taught me resilience. Hannah thought she could bury me with one text and a stolen $10,000. She was wrong. I wasn't the scared girl who'd gone to prison 5 years ago. I was a fighter, and Savannah was about to see it. Tomorrow, I'd start with the bank, then find Hannah. Whatever she was hiding, I'd drag it into the light. The creaky floorboards of my Savannah apartment groaned as I paced Hannah's text. Don't come to Mom's funeral. You're not welcome. And the theft of my $10,000 savings burning in my mind. 5 years in prison had honed my instincts. Thanks to Sarah's lessons on spotting scams, and Lily's words at the corner store confirmed something was rotten in the Harper family. Hannah wasn't just grieving. She was orchestrating something dark. Mom's sudden death, the stolen money, and the family's silence weren't coincidences. I'd come to Savannah for answers, not a welcome party, and I was done letting Hannah control the board. It was time to dig into the truth, no matter how ugly. First stop was the bank. I walked into Harper Bank's marble lobby at 8 in the morning, my burner phone tucked in my pocket and a notepad ready. The teller, a nervous guy named Ethan, recognized the Harper name but froze when I asked about the $10,000 transfer. You'll need to speak to a manager, he stammered as darting to a corner office. The manager, a woman in her 50s named Carla, was polite but cagey. The account was accessed legally, she said, avoiding my gaze. We can't disclose more without a court order. Legally? By Hannah, who'd somehow gotten my credentials. I pressed, mentioning my prison release and Mom's death, but Carla clammed up, ushering me out with a tight smile. As I left, I noticed a black SUV idling across the street, its tinted windows hiding the driver. My prison instincts kicked and someone was watching me. Back at the apartment, I called Sarah's cousin, Mia, the paralegal she'd recommended. Mia met me at a diner on Bull Street, her laptop already open. Your sister's name is all over public records, she said, sipping coffee. She pulled up bank filings showing Hannah had become a co-signer on Harper bank accounts 2 years ago, right after Mom's health started declining. More alarming, Hannah had funneled $50,000 from the bank's charity fund to a shell company called Coastal Ventures. This is classic money laundering, Mia said, echoing Sarah's lessons. Follow the money and you'll find the motive. Coastal Ventures had no website, no office, just a P.O. box in Atlanta. But its registered agent? Victor Grayson, the art dealer who'd framed me for fraud 5 years ago. My blood ran cold. Hannah wasn't just stealing from me. She was tied to the man who'd ruined my life. That night, I drove to Grandma Charlotte's cottage on Tybee Island, 30 minutes from Savannah. Her porch light was on, and she pulled me into a hug before I could speak. "I've been trying to reach you," she said, her voice sharp but warm. "Your phone's been off." I explained the burner phone, Hannah's text, and the stolen money. Charlotte's eyes narrowed. "Hannah's been different these past 3 years," she said, pouring sweet tea. "She started gambling, casinos, online poker, you name it. Owed $500,000 last I heard. Your dad bailed her out, but it broke him." She handed me a folder of bank statements she'd swiped from Dad's study. They showed Hannah withdrawing hundreds of thousands from family accounts, all funneled to Coastal Ventures. "Your mom found out," Charlotte whispered. "She confronted Hannah 2 weeks ago. Then she was gone." The implication hung heavy. Mom's heart attack might not have been natural. The next morning, I spotted the black SUV again, this time tailing me as I drove to the library to research Coastal Ventures. Prison had taught me how to shake a tail's sharp turns, doubling back through alleys. I lost them near Forsyth Park, but my heart was racing. Whoever was following me was skilled, and I bet Hannah had hired them to keep me quiet. At the library, I dug into public records, finding articles about Harper Bank's recent troubles, layoffs, frozen accounts, and whispers of fraud. One report mentioned Victor Grayson as a consultant for the bank, hired by Hannah. It was all connecting Hannah's gambling debts, Grayson's dirty money, and my stolen $10,000 as a small piece of a bigger scam. I needed to see Dad. I found him at a dive bar near the river, a place he'd never have stepped into in his banking days. He was slumped over a whiskey, his suit wrinkled, a shadow of the man who'd ruled Harper Bank. "Emily," he mumbled, barely looking up. "You shouldn't be here." I slid onto the stool beside him, my voice low. "Hannah stole my money, Dad. She's working with Victor Grayson." "What's going on?" His eyes flickered with guilt. "She's saving the bank," he slurred. "Made deals I couldn't. You wouldn't understand." "Saving the bank? By laundering money and stealing from me?" I pressed, but he clammed up, muttering about family loyalty before stumbling out. His words stung. Loyalty was what I'd given the Harpers, and they'd turned their backs. Lily called as I drove back to the apartment, her voice shaky. "I overheard Hannah at the bank today, talking about you. She said you're stirring trouble and need to be handled. Be careful, Emily." "Handled?" The SUV, the theft, Mom's death, it was all starting to feel like a trap. I checked my burner phone and found a text from an unknown number. "Leave Savannah, or you'll regret it." The message was unsigned, but it reeked of Hannah's desperation. Prison had taught me to face threats head-on, and I wasn't running. Hannah thought she could scare me off with a text and a tale. She didn't know the woman I'd become. I'd lost Mom, my money, and my family's trust, but I still had my fight. Tomorrow, I'd track down Coastal Ventures' paper trail and confront Hannah. Whatever she was hiding, gambling, fraud, or worse, I was going to expose it, even if it tore the Harpers apart. The Savannah night was thick with humidity as I sat in my bare apartment, the burner phone's threatening text, "Leave Savannah, or you'll regret it," glowing like a warning flare. Hannah's web of deceit was tightening. The stolen $10,000 savings, her ties to Victor Grayson, the black SUV tailing me, and Grandma Charlotte's revelation about Mom's confrontation with Hannah just before her heart attack. 5 years in prison had taught me to trust my gut, and it was screaming that Hannah wasn't just covering gambling debts, she was neck-deep in something criminal. Lily's warning about Hannah wanting me handled and Dad's drunken defense of her, saving the bank, only fueled my resolve. I wasn't running from my sister's threats. I was going to face her, and I'd do it on her turf. The next morning, I drove to Hannah's law firm, a sleek glass building on Bay Street, its polished facade hiding the rot I knew was inside. Sarah's lessons on spotting fraud ran through my head. Keep calm, stay sharp, get proof. I slipped my burner phone into my pocket, set to record, and walked in like I belonged. The receptionist, a young woman with a tight bun, recognized the Harper name and buzzed me through to Hannah's corner office. My sister sat behind a mahogany desk, her blonde hair pulled back, looking every bit the untouchable lawyer. But her eyes, cold, calculating, betrayed the sister I'd once known. "Emily," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "I told you not to come." I didn't sit. "You stole my $10,000, Hannah. Banned me from Mom's funeral. And now you're sending goons to scare me off. What are you hiding?" Her smile didn't waver, but her fingers twitched on a pen. "You're paranoid," she said. Prison made you delusional. That money? A clerical error. The funeral? I was protecting Dad. He can't handle your drama. Protecting Dad? The same man she bled dry to cover her gambling debts? I leaned forward, my voice low. I know about Coastal Ventures. Victor Grayson. The $50,000 you siphoned from the bank's charity fund. Mom found out, didn't she? That's why she's gone. Hannah's facade cracked, her eyes narrowing. You have no idea what you're talking about, she snapped, standing. Mom had a weak heart. She couldn't handle the stress you caused, always the family screw up. Her words stung, but I saw the panic beneath them. I pushed harder. Stress I caused? Or stress from you stealing from the family to pay off your $500,000 gambling debts? I have bank statements, Hannah. Grandma Charlotte gave them to me. Her face paled, but she recovered fast, stepping around the desk. You think you can waltz back after 5 years and play detective? You're nothing, Emily. A convict. No one will believe you. That's when she slipped. If you hadn't gone to prison, I wouldn't have had to clean up your mess, she hissed. I did what I had to do to save the bank, to save us. Clean up my mess? I seized the opening. What does that mean, Hannah? Save the bank by working with Grayson? The guy who framed me for fraud. Her eyes widened, realizing her mistake, but she doubled down. You want the truth? Fine. Grayson had connections, big clients, offshore accounts. He helped me keep the bank afloat when Dad's bad deals tanked it. Your little $10,000 was pocket change. And if you keep digging, I'll make sure you go back to prison. For good this time. My heart pounded, but the phone in my pocket was catching every word. You're threatening me? I said, keeping my voice steady. After you used Mom's death to cover your tracks? What did you do to her, Hannah? She laughed, a brittle sound. I didn't do anything. She collapsed because she couldn't handle the truth about you. About me, about everything. But if you go to the cops, I'll bury you. I've got evidence, emails, bank records showing you authorized those transfers. Who's the convict here? It was a gut punch. She was planning to frame me again, just like Grayson had 5 years ago. But this time I wasn't defenseless. I stepped closer, my voice ice cold. You sold our family for your debts. Mom deserved better. We all did. Hannah's smile twisted. Get out, Emily. Or you'll wish you'd stayed in that cell. I turned to leave, but not before catching a glimpse of a file on her desk labeled Coastal Ventures. It was proof she was still working with Grayson. As I walked out, the receptionist avoided my eyes, and I felt the SUV's presence again, parked 2 blocks away. Hannah wasn't just desperate, she was dangerous. Back at the apartment, I played the recording for Mia, Sarah's paralegal cousin, who'd become my ally. This is gold, Mia said, her eyes wide. She admitted to working with Grayson and threatening you. We need to get this to the authorities, but we need more hard evidence tying her to the fraud. I nodded, thinking of the Coastal Ventures file. But another call came in from Lily, her voice trembling. Emily, I heard Hannah on the phone at the bank. She's meeting Grayson tonight at a warehouse on the river. Something about cleaning up loose ends. Be careful. Loose ends? That meant me. And maybe Mom. The pieces were falling into place. Hannah wasn't just laundering money to cover her debts. She was running a full-blown operation with Grayson, using Harper Bank as a front. Mom's confrontation had threatened to expose them, and now I was the next target. Prison had taught me to stay one step ahead, and I wasn't going to let Hannah's threats stop me. I called Sarah, who'd been checking Grayson's Atlanta connections. He's linked to a cartel, she said grimly. Your sister's in deep, Harper. Watch your back. I hung up, my mind racing. Hannah thought she could bury me with lies and hired muscle. She didn't know I'd learned to fight in a place tougher than her law office. Tonight, I'd follow her to that warehouse. Whatever she and Grayson were planning, I was going to end it. The Savannah air was heavy with river mist as I crouched in the shadows near the warehouse Lily had tipped me off about. Hannah's recorded confession from our confrontation still burning in my pocket. Her threats to frame me again, her ties to Victor Grayson, and the $50,000 siphon from Harper Bank's charity fund were pieces of a puzzle pointing to something far worse than gambling debts. 5 years in prison had sharpened my instincts, and Sarah's warning about Grayson's cartel connections screamed danger. Hannah's plan to clean up loose ends at this warehouse tonight wasn't just about silencing me, it was about burying the truth about Mom's death and her crimes. I wasn't here to play hero, I was here to end this. The warehouse, a rusted hulk by the Savannah River, hummed with activity. Through a cracked window, I saw Hannah, her lawyer polish gone, arguing with Grayson, his slick suit out of place among crates and shadows. Two armed men stood nearby, their presence confirming Sarah's cartel fears. My burner phone was recording, but I needed more than words, I needed evidence. I slipped closer, heart pounding, and caught Hannah's voice. She's on to us, Victor. If Emily talks, the feds will dig into Coastal Ventures. We need to disappear tonight. Grayson's reply was cold. Your sister's not the problem. You are. You let Margaret snoop, and now we're cleaning up your mess. Margaret? Mom? My blood froze. Was Hannah involved in Mom's death? Before I could process, a hand grabbed my shoulder. One of Grayson's men, his grip like iron, yanked me inside. Hannah's eyes widened when she saw me, then hardened. You just don't quit, do you? She spat. I held her gaze, channeling every lesson from prison. I know you killed Mom, Hannah. And I've got proof. It was a bluff, but it hit. Grayson laughed, but Hannah flinched. She didn't kill her, Grayson said, stepping forward. Margaret's heart gave out after we threatened to expose her precious bank's dirty deals. But you, Emily? You're a liability. He nodded to the thug who raised a gun. I braced myself, but my phone was still recording, hidden in my sleeve. Then sirens wailed. Blue lights flooded the warehouse as FBI agents stormed in, guns drawn. Hands up. Drop your weapons. Mia, my paralegal ally, had gotten my recorded confession to her FBI contact hours ago. And I'd texted her my location before sneaking in. Hannah screamed. She set me up. As agents cuffed her. Grayson tried to run but was tackled near a stack of crates. I stood frozen, the chaos swirling, until an agent pulled me aside. You're lucky, Miss Harper, he said. We've been tracking Grayson's cartel for months. Your evidence cracked this wide open, but the victory was short-lived. As I left the warehouse, my phone buzzed with 15 missed calls, 10 from Grandma Charlotte, 3 from Dad, 2 from Lily. Charlotte's voicemail was frantic. Emily, your father's in the hospital. Heart attack. He heard about Hannah and collapsed. Get here now. My stomach dropped. The Harper family was unraveling, and somehow I was the lightning rod. I drove to Savannah General, the hospital's sterile halls, a stark contrast to the warehouse's grit. In the waiting room, Charlotte grabbed my hands, her eyes red. He saw the news, Hannah's arrest, the bank's fraud. It was too much. Dad was in ICU, stable but critical, facing emergency bypass surgery. Lily was there, pacing, her face pale. They're blaming you, Emily, she whispered. Your dad, Travis, even some bank staff. They say you stirred this up, that Hannah wouldn't have snapped if you'd stayed away. Blaming me? After Hannah stole my $10,000, laundered $50,000 through Coastal Ventures, and maybe caused Mom's death? The injustice burned, but Travis's arrival made it worse. My cousin, always Hannah's shadow, stormed in, his face twisted. You happy now? He shouted. Dad's dying because you couldn't leave well enough alone. Hannah showed us your texts, threatening to ruin the bank. I stared, stunned. I never sent any text, Travis. Hannah's lying, just like she lied about Mom, about me, about everything. Charlotte stepped in, her voice steel. Enough, Travis. Emily's the only one fighting for the truth. Your sister's been stealing from the family for years, and you all let her. Travis deflated, guilt flickering in his eyes, but he walked away without a word. I turned to Charlotte, my voice shaking. What did Hannah do, Grandma? Did she hurt Mom? Charlotte sighed, handing me a USB drive. I found this in Hannah's home office. Bank records, emails to Grayson, even a hospital report on Margaret's heart meds. It's not proof of murder, but it's close. The report showed Mom's medication had been tampered with, doses doubled days before her death. My knees buckled. Hannah hadn't just betrayed me, she destroyed our family. I called Mia, who connected me with Agent Carter, the FBI lead. Your sister's not just a thief, he said. She sold Harper Bank's client data to Grayson's cartel. Social security numbers, account details for $2 million. That's why they needed Coastal Ventures. Your mother's questions threatened to expose it all. The scope was staggering. Hannah hadn't just laundered money. She'd turned the family legacy into a criminal front. And now, with Dad fighting for his life, the Harpers were blaming me for shining a light on her crimes. I handed over Charlotte's USB drive, my hands steady despite the rage inside. There's more, I told Carter. Check Mom's medical records. Hannah might have killed her. As agents took the evidence, Lily pulled me aside. Grayson's crew is still out there, she warned. They'll come for you if Hannah talks. You need to lay low. Lay low? I'd spent 5 years caged because of lies. I wasn't hiding now. But Dad's heart attack, the family's blame, and the possibility that Hannah had murdered Mom tore at me. Prison had taught me to survive, but this was a different kind of war. Hannah was in custody, but her lies were still poisoning the Harpers. I had to clear my name, protect myself, and find justice for Mom. The truth was out, but the fight was far from over. The chaos of Hannah's arrest at the Savannah warehouse and Dad's heart attack left me reeling, the weight of the Harper family's collapse pressing down. 5 years in prison had braced me for fights, but nothing prepared me for the truth. Hannah hadn't just stolen my $10,000 savings or laundered $50,000 through Coastal Ventures. She'd sold Harper Bank's client data to a cartel for $2 million and possibly caused Mom's death by tampering with her meds. The FBI's cuffs on Hannah were a start, but the family's blame, Travis's accusations, Lily's whispers of their anger, cut deeper than I expected. I wasn't the villain, but Savannah saw me as the spark that burned their legacy down. 2 weeks later, justice moved fast. Hannah, facing charges of fraud, money laundering, and identity theft, took a plea deal. 7 years in prison and restitution of $1.5 million. Grayson, her cartel-linked partner, got 20 years. The FBI, using Grandma Charlotte's USB drive and my recordings, dismantled Coastal Ventures, freezing its accounts. Harper Bank, gutted by Hannah's schemes, entered federal receivership, its assets sold to cover client losses. Dad, recovering from bypass surgery, called me to his hospital room. His voice, weak but clear, broke the silence of 5 years. "I failed you, Emily," he said, eyes wet. "I let Hannah run wild, ignored your mother's warnings. I'm sorry." His apology didn't erase the pain, but it cracked the wall between us. Charlotte, ever the family anchor, refused to let the Harpers fade into shame. She organized a small memorial for Mom at her Tybee Island cottage, just me, Dad, Lily, and a few old friends. We scattered Mom's ashes under her favorite oak, and I hung my Forsyth Park painting on Charlotte's wall, a tribute to the mother Hannah had betrayed. Travis showed up, quieter now, his anger softened by guilt. "I should have seen what Hannah was doing," he mumbled. I nodded, not ready to forgive but open to trying. The Harpers weren't whole, but we were starting to heal. I reconnected with Sarah, my prison lifeline, who flew in from Atlanta to help me process. Over coffee at a River Street cafe, she grinned. "You took down a cartel, Harper. Not bad for an artist." Lily joined us, her loyalty unwavering, and we laughed for the first time in weeks, building a family not of blood but of trust. Charlotte, meanwhile, had a surprise. She'd sold one of my prison paintings for $5,000 and booked a gallery space for my art. "Savannah needs to see your heart," she said. The exhibit, planned for next month, felt like a second chance. Hannah's shadow lingered. I visited her in jail, needing closure. She looked small, her lawyer polish gone. "I didn't mean for Mom to die," she whispered, but her eyes dodged mine. I didn't forgive her, not yet. Maybe someday, but not while Mom's loss ached. Back at my apartment, I unpacked the gifts I'd brought for the Harpers, the watch, the shawl, symbols of a family I'd lost and found again. Prison had taught me resilience. Savannah taught me truth. The Harpers were broken, but I was building something new, and no one could take that away. The dust of Hannah's 7-year sentence and Harper Bank's collapse settled, leaving me standing stronger in Savannah's warm light. 5 years in prison and Mom's loss, tainted by Hannah's betrayal, had cracked the Harper family, but Grandma Charlotte's memorial and Dad's apology planted seeds of healing. The gallery exhibit Charlotte arranged was a turning point, showcasing my prison paintings to a crowd of 200 locals. When a critic called my work raw and redemptive, I felt the artist I'd buried rise again. That night, I decided to turn my pain into purpose. I founded Second Canvas, a nonprofit to help women leaving prison rebuild through art. With $5,000 from my painting sales and a small grant, I rented a studio near Chippewa Square. 3 days a week, I led painting workshops for 15 former inmates, teaching them to channel trauma into color and shape. Their stories echoed mine: betrayal, loss, resilience, and every brushstroke felt like defiance. Savannah took notice. A local paper ran a feature, calling Second Canvas a beacon for second chances. Even Dad, still frail from his heart attack, showed up to one session, quietly framing canvases in the back. "I'm proud of you," he whispered, words I'd waited 10 years to hear. Lily introduced me to David, a journalist who'd covered Hannah's trial. His warm smile and sharp questions about my art sparked late-night talks over coffee. When he pitched a story on Second Canvas, I hesitated. Publicity meant exposure, and Grayson's cartel ties still loomed, but David's belief in me won out. The article drew 50 new volunteers, and David's text became a daily bright spot. As spring bloomed, I stood in the studio watching women paint their futures. Prison had forged me. Hannah's lies had tested me. But here, surrounded by art and allies, I was building a legacy stronger than the Harper's old money. Second Canvas wasn't just my redemption. It was a promise to never let betrayal define me again. Standing in the Second Canvas studio watching 15 women paint their futures, I felt the weight of 5 years in prison and Hannah's betrayal fade into something lighter purpose. The Harper's collapse, Mom's death, and Hannah's 7-year sentence had nearly broken me, but Dad's apology, Grandma Charlotte's strength, and my new family, Lily, Sarah, David, showed me what resilience could build. Second Canvas wasn't just a nonprofit. It was proof that betrayal doesn't define you. Your response does. That's the lesson I want to share with you. When Hannah stole my $10,000 savings and banned me from Mom's funeral, I thought my worth was tied to the Harper name. 5 years behind bars taught me otherwise. If someone, family, friend, or foe, betrays you, don't let their rejection become your truth. Find people who lift you up, like Sarah did for me in prison or David does now with his quiet support. Start small, write down one goal, maybe a job, a hobby, or just a walk by the Savannah River. Take one step toward it every day. That's how you rebuild, not for their approval, but for you. My journey showed me family isn't just blood. It's the ones who stand by you when the world turns away. Build your own, whether it's 2 friends or 20. If you're stuck, feeling like Hannah's lies are your own, know this: you're not your worst moment. You're the choices you make after. I chose to paint, to fight, to create Second Canvas for 50 women and counting. You can choose your path too. So here's my challenge. Grab a pen, write one thing you want to reclaim from betrayal, your confidence, your dreams, your peace. Make one move toward it this week. You're stronger than their lies. I learned that the hard way, and I'm betting you can too. Let's keep building together, one step at a time. The Second Canvas studio, buzzing with 15 women painting their redemption, is my proof that betrayal, like Hannah's theft of my $10,000 savings or her 7-year prison sentence for fraud, doesn't have to be the end. 5 years behind bars, Mom's death, and the Harper family's collapse pushed me to the edge, but sharing my story with you feels like the final step in claiming my freedom. The lesson I shared, choosing your response over their rejection, came from hard-won battles. Now, I want to hear yours. Drop a comment below and tell me about a time you faced betrayal, whether from family, friends, or life itself. How did you rise above it? Your story might inspire someone else to take that first step. If this journey resonated with you, hit that like button to let me know. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter. Second Canvas is growing, and I'll share more stories from the women we're helping. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're stronger than their pain. Maybe it's a friend who's stuck, a coworker who's lost hope, or even you, watching this at 2 in the morning, wondering if you can start over. You can. I did, with 50 women now painting alongside me, and you can too. One last thing, when Hannah told me I wasn't welcome, I said fine and walked away. But fine wasn't surrender, it was my battle cry. When life says you're not enough, say fine and build a life that proves them wrong. Head to the comments, share your fine moment, and let's keep this conversation going. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride through Savannah's shadows. Together, we're painting a future brighter than any betrayal. Let's keep creating, one story at a time.